So let's not put a framework on it that only when you're invoking a certain being from the ninth dimension that you're channeling, right? It's like, no, you're channeling all the time. It's a very powerful mentality to have on a spiritual path. Turning demons into guard dogs. That's the energy.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another brand new episode of the Enlightenment Podcast. Today we're talking with Sumit, and he has a topic in mind. Please share your thoughts. What do you want to talk about today?
Yeah, man, I want to talk about the idea of spirit guides and spirit guide success. Having the prowess to channel, to be able to tap into these different energies. Usually people have weird ideas about channeling, especially in regards to movies or like, fortune tellers and seances, and it's looked at as a very negative thing. But there are also positive beings out there willing to help us. And so as a positive psychologist, I'm trying to turn the psyche away from the dark beings and the false light beings more into these ascended masters that we can actually work with and connect with. So yeah, I help people to do that. So if you have any personal questions about this or the audience does, just let me know.
Yeah, let's talk about this. Let's explore this. I remember the first time that I contacted you and talking about this particular subject. It was the most exciting thing because you understood it,
Yeah.
you got it, and I was excited to talk about something that I understood. So, yeah, what's your experience with this? Do you channel for people? How does this all work?
Yeah, so originally I understood that whatever I make my spiritual theme, it will attract a certain spiritual team towards me. So I see the imagination as kind of the interface, the dashboard of the mind, body, spirit. So it overlaps in everything. Now, if you're seeing constant bird like beings, it's probably a symbolism that your mind is giving you in order to ascend. And so your psyche, your mind will bring in certain things that you actually need for your own survival and your healing. So channeling is both receptive and directive. So you need to harmonize both your masculine structure and the feminine flow or the translation that's happening together. And so some people may get overhyped about like Bashar or Abraham Hicks and these channelers, Seth Speaks. But again, that's you don't really want any kind of weird interference because I remember there have been certain times where I'm more of a clairaudient channeler. Hear like buzzing or high pitched frequencies. They're just irritating, to listen to. That sometimes has no semblance of English words to it, especially if you're working with like an unknown entity, let's say, and you're trying to know about it. So there are loopholes, pitfalls, distractions along the way, this path. But it's not about climbing. Transcendence isn't about climbing, it's about unbecoming. It's about becoming the uncarved block, like stripping away every illusion till there's nothing left but who you are. So that's really the process of me channeling, was recognizing my own ego wanting to manipulate the situation or say the message exactly like this to fulfill my own needs. But it's less about that nowadays and more about just becoming the channel that speaks, not filtering things, having it completely unfiltered, and processing it later. That's why I love to just let go. I have one of my channeling facilitators, Ryan G. He records it. So when I listen to it back, I go, wait a second, this is really profound, and this is what he or she meant during this process.
Mm.
So yeah, it's very powerful to let go of the left brain, have the right brain completely take over, and then later on process using my left brain again to put the pieces of the puzzle back.
So, how do you channel? How does one channel?
Well, we're channeling all the time. Actually, it's about getting to a channeling state, I would say, is the best way. So, I mean, mastery isn't like a weekend retreat or like a cute little mantra you bought off Etsy. It's basically a blowtorch to your ego. Like you're going, yes, I'm me. I'm this persona. I'm this character that I'm portraying. But there's also this living channel, right? There's this cosmic grid and this living channel in there, and you got to basically scrub them clean first before you start channeling. So clearing up your chakras, um, any debris, any energetic gunk from traumas or different memories, and just removing them, letting them go. I use a tapping technology similar to EFT, emotional freedom technique, so tapping certain meridian points and just letting it go. So from that process onwards, then I understand what is blocking these individuals from channeling. Maybe it's some dogma, maybe it's guilt, maybe it's religious pressure from their family, right? It's usually something that's holding back that infinity intelligence. So the crown chakra isn't just some fancy purple light, right? It's the throne where your ego gets dethroned. It's where your mind, taps into this. So great sages like Krishna, Buddha, Babaji, they vibe off of this energy. So miracles are like the side hustle of someone who's turned their consciousness into a polished uh, crystal, polished diamond. So for you to begin channeling, just understand that you getting on stage performing can even be a channeling. Or you automatic writing without any agendas, no hidden motives, is you channeling. Or you just speaking your mind like this, like how we are now, Shiva, is channeling. So let's not put a framework on it that only when you're invoking a certain being from the ninth dimension that you're channeling. Right? It's like, no, you're channeling all the time, and you have to refine this trance-like state, this not gnosis state, whatever you want to call it, this light level trance state, where you actually perceive beyond the five senses. And you start to understand that there's more to this than what my senses are making it out to be. Making sense of the nonsense, which is the masculine, the divine masculine consciousness.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you said the channeling is not necessarily about channeling nine-dimensional beings, but do you channel beings? Who have you channeled? And
Oh
yeah.
man. Yeah, man, I've channeled all sorts of beings, and at first it was very chaotic because their energies would clash all the time. Right? If you take two beings from two different pantheons and you start working together, oh man, the amount of disagreements, the amount of chaos and confusion will be rampant. This is why it's very important for you to create a bridge or a link between the beings that you work with. So I see each of my chakra points as seven main deities, and they control that realm. I think of it like this. So my root chakra deity controls that physical realm. My sacral chakra deity controls that sensual creative realm, and so forth. So let's take some of my guides. Chief Deno, a Native American animorph energy that I worked with ever since childhood, but never knew exactly who or what that was. Um, Kind of a tiger-like energy in my root chakra. Then we have the sacral chakra, which I used the energies of love and lust together. So the lust would be almost a demonic being who I had to subdue or be able to contain within that bridge using Shiva's energy and Padmasambhava's energy. So we have Kamadeva, the Hindu god of love, and Ashmadeva, the demon of lust. And together with the bridge, they could finally be cultivated and used properly instead of being the skewed, weird dynamic of lust and love that goes back and forth, right? That's one way I use that bridge. My heart chakra is associated with Shiva and his energy. And mainly Kalabhairava is that more fierce form of Shiva, but it's still Shiva's essence, Mahadev's essence that I pull from. My solar plexus is Janus. So Janus is the Roman god of doorways and beginnings. Actually, January is coming up. The month is named after him, Janus. And he's taught me all about flow state. Uh, I say his particular N, Gratus sum Janus ut me doni dominium un statu fluxus, which means I welcome you, Janus, to gift me with the state of flow. So he sees flow state as almost like a merit. You have to earn it. You don't just get this altered state of consciousness and get to keep it. It's a constant refinement that you create through little microflow through your day that you get to the macro. Then we have Hermes in my throat chakra, the Mercury, that energy. Um, as well as Horus in my third eye, and finally a very interesting vegan being from Alpha Lyrae. His name is Osmosis. I cannot pronounce his actual name. It's too alien for me to even go there. But I call him Osmosis, inspired by Osmosis Jones, that particular TV show. Showed up in my mind kind of like this blue floating creature similar to that. So, um, yeah, these are the main beings I work with. I work with many other beings and experimentally channel other beings, but these are my main seven, and I really love every single one of them has a different lesson for me in my spiritual path. So now that they've all finally acclimatized to my body's homeostasis, I know my baseline now. And anything that's off my baseline, like I feel weird jitters or like random energies coming in, I can notice this is off the nexus. This is off the base, right? And that's how I can be like, okay, unwanted entity, this person shouldn't be in my life anymore. This doesn't work for me anymore, right? You can start to discern um, these beings by asking, who is your master? Because they can't serve two masters, right? So you have to ask them, who is your master? And that's when you catch them if they're trying to manipulate you, deceive you. There's a difference between darkness and shadow that I recently learned. Darkness is anti-life. Shadow is a complementary to the light. So there's a lot of good shadow workers, shadow beings out there. But if you're calling yourself a dark magician, you're playing against Kundalini. You're anti-Kundalini in that sense. You're blocking the life force. So I mean, speaking to Ryan about this, he's more of a. I used to say he's more of a darker being. It's more so he's more of a shadow being to myself. I'm a being of the light. He's a being of the shadow. I'm a being of the right brain. He's a being of the left brain. And so together we can meet in the middle, right? Connection between attachment, detachment.
Do you have any powerful or scary channeling experiences? Channeling got wrong or something like that?
Oh man, yeah, lots of them, man. Terrifying ones. At first, a lot of the deities, since I was just very new to it when I first started, a lot of the deities or entities would kind of like toy with me, play around with me, kind of give me pranks or different tricks, like. But again, it was all a reflection of my consciousness at that time. So I was still in that kind of ADHD frame of mind, like kind of thinking about so many ideas and things. Of course, these beings would be magnetized to that because it's like them, the trickster energy that came towards me. Then I started to refine my consciousness, be more grounded, and then these light beings started to come in. So I started to notice my nervous system attract certain beings to come and work with me. Now, one of the scariest ones was probably like a weird. We did like an experimental channeling once. I think it was done the Celtic god of the dead or something, or it was like one of them was like Cthulhu. Very bad idea, man. Like, just really stupid, really bad idea. Because I felt my whole body like wanting to escape out of that situation. It was like I was held hostage by that being as I was channeling. It was very scary, very terrifying. Good thing I had some protective, um, I had a protective space and certain ways that I could get out of that and work against that. But yeah, it's really terrifying when you have a certain being you're locking eyes with. Especially, we met this guy named Brad, um, who's another healer channeler who works with crystals, and he had apparently locked eyes with the the anti-life queen, like the queen of hell, you could say, in simpler terms, or the underworld. And he locked eyes with her and said, "Not today, Queenie." Called her a nickname. And I thought, wow, bro, like that's like ultimate presence, courage, bravery. It's what we need really in this day and age. But then we have all these light workers walking around like just pussies, I'll be honest, right? Like not allowing themselves to actually lean into interacting with these beings and staying the light. So I learned a lot from that. experience to actually face up to these beings, lock eyes with these beings. Because ultimately, it's a projection of your own consciousness. If you can face your own fears, you can face these shadows, these internal demons, you could call them, whatever you want to call them, and transmute that power to help the ally or the good friend to emerge from these energies too. So you always have the counter opposite. So if you have you struggle with anger, you struggle with this wrathfulness, this revenge, you send that being what it needs, which is, what does your anger really need? Maybe love, compassion, gratitude, being heard, being seen, feeling power. So you send the being that energy so you can neutralize it and get back to your baseline again. So this is a way that I deal with very dark beings. And my father also taught me this. Keep a little offering outside your door. You know, if they're bothering you too much, you say, hey, listen, I'm on the pathway to enlightenment. This is what it is. Come back later or join me on this journey. This very powerful mentality to have on a spiritual path. Turning demons into guard dogs. That's the energy.
And
Making the
my
darkness your bitch. Yeah.
in my experience, the way to good channeling is you have to clean your vessel, as you said,
Yes. Totally.
and be
Totally.
empty inside. But I haven't really found any use to this as my spiritual practice continued. At first, it was more of like I wanted answers and I wanted powerful spiritual friends. I guess I found the ultimate spiritual friend. You can see behind me. So I just channel him,
Yeah.
or he comes to me.
Mm-hmm.
But very worthwhile to work with these energies, to work with this energy. What else do you have to say or share? Anything you missed?
Well, I think that the way that I want you guys to understand this stuff, because it can be very complicated and heady, is that imagine your guides are like future ripples of you, future versions of yourself. And the archetypes that are being created in your mind, they're like these impersonal, formless aspects of you. They're like stock characters that show up. So your guides are like projections of your own psyche or subconscious. Even if they don't play out their evolutionary paths, they're still like echoes, like distant echoes of ourselves. So if you are drawn to a very specific being, it just means that you are in that frequency. You're in that range of wavelength where you're getting these downloads from it. So spirit guides can help us actually gain consciousness by helping us understand ourselves better. And it's the full embodiment or actualization of a guide would be it's led its complete pathway to its whole trajectory. It's not gone a little bit and then stopped midway and stopped being a guide. It followed through on its entire mission or purpose. That's what makes them a guide.
Hmm.
So they didn't kind of put one foot in, one foot out. Like if Horus was like, yeah, maybe I'll defeat Seth. I don't know. Perhaps I will. You know? No. That's not going to work. You have to really claim it. And so you have to control and direct your prana, obviously your breath work, very, very important for channeling. And being able to hold it at the top of your head and then bring it down in the body. So one simple thing that I want the audience to understand is from root chakra all the way to crown is liberation. From crown all the way to root chakra is manifestation. You're embodying the concept, this ethereal floating concept into your body. So you've installed who you need to be. That's
Hmm.
manifestation. So if you start getting random ideas or downloads, just write them down, or record them. And later on, you can start to understand, oh, okay, my higher self made me understand this. So the higher self is like the container for all these guides. You see, and we call it the higher self is to understand it, but it's really a composite, a nexus of all of these beings together that each of us have. But only few get to access because you need to be hyper attuned to it and make it a part of your skill.
What advice would you have for somebody that wants to learn this skill of channeling? What would you tell them? How can they do this?
Well, you can try out our, we have a 5 day challenge that's coming out, spiritualmasterychallenge.com. It's going to come out soon, so just 5 days. It's going to be free for now. We might have a price for it later, but try that for 5 days and just see, clean your vessel in terms of that and those practices. It'll really help you channel. The second thing you can do is obviously we have a mystery school. You can join our adepts program where I help you find your spirit team and help you lead this path towards spiritual mastery and understanding yourself better. So if you want to work with me one on one or two on one, Ryan G, another perspective, then it's a good idea to explore that. At least try a 15-minute quick session with me to see if we vibe, and according to that, I will help you fine tune this process. But mainly, start with some basic. Carla Ruckert's Science of Channeling has been an eye opener for me. There's an Institute of Noetic Sciences, noetic coming from gnosis, the word, and really, really powerful resources out there. So don't think that this is just a woo-woo like right brain thing. There's actual science nowadays to prove it, and military scientists and high-level CEOs are even channeling nowadays, but we don't even know it. Um, so it's important for you to have this technology, I think, because it just creates that much more clarity on your path. Imagine having 7 different versions of you assisting you on this path. I mean, that's pretty brilliant, I would say. Um, so yeah, according to your spiritual theme, you will magnetize a spiritual team, and I can of course muscle test for which beings align with you, from which pantheon path working. I have to know a little bit about your lineage and background. So you have a Nordic lineage or a Yoruba lineage, then I can refine it better. But usually there'll be a variety of beings because we have many past lives. Like Shiva, if you had a past life in Japan, for instance, you might work with like Fudomio, the fierce compassion being,
Hmm.
or Akala, some people call it. So yeah, it really depends on each person's individual dharma, their path. But ultimately, start channeling by just writing down your thoughts, the little downloads, the epiphanies you get, the aha moments you get. Just write them down, revisit them later, and then to actually sit and channel and protect yourself from body possession and all these things. If you need the guidance for that, reach out to me personally. Don't go attempting that yourself. It's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. Yeah,
Well,
that's
these
what
are
I
all
have
the
to say. Yeah.
yeah, those are all the questions that I have. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching the podcast, and see you soon.